Hello my guys, welcome to what I think is a pretty simple, easy TBR for me for August. So in August, I don't have a ton of stuff going on. I do have little bits here and there, and I have quite a bit to do, but I have nothing substantial in my month that is going to distract me from reading, which is a very different vibe than July when I was away for half of the month. So I actually did okay in July, but obviously it wasn't my best reading month. And so I'm going to have to kind of make up for that a little bit in August. That being said, when I was making this TBR and figuring out what it was that I had to roll over, I actually managed to clear like 5 or 6 books off my July TBR. Granted, they were not the most important books on my TBR necessarily, and they were not the ones that have been on there the oldest, so we do still have some recurring rollovers for August, but I actually did much better than I thought in that regard. So today I'm going to be talking to you guys about 7 books, and then I'm going to be adding an extra one on, as I always do, for my August Patreon pick. So I am going to start with the Patreon picks. It's kind of shameful actually, because of those 7 books that I have for this video, I only actually own 4 of them, which for somebody who is trying to clear through their TBR is not the best ratio. I do, of course, on top of these have Shelve It or Scrap It that I'm going to be working on. The last episode, or the next episode should I say, is a little bit late, but I am working on it, and that will be going on in the background alongside all of these books throughout August. I'm hoping to have the next episode to you around midway through the month, but we'll see. I'm having a good time with it so far, and I also am trying not to rush myself because I've sometimes been feeling a little bit overwhelmed over the last month or so, and I want to eliminate that as much as possible. So getting into my books for August, we will start with those Patreon picks. The first of which I think is Jennifer's pick, and that is Shadow Kissed by Rebecca L. Garcia. Now I can no longer remember what month this is for. I'm pretty sure it's like April, maybe March or April, so it has been a couple of months now, but this one is next up in my priority list, and it is the one on this TBR that I probably know the least about. I know that it is a romantasy, it's about vampires, and that is pretty much the extent of my knowledge, but I'm hoping that I enjoy it. The next one that I have is, I think it's Rebecca's pick, and it's An Echo of Things to Come by James Islington. But as you know, we've discussed this before, to be able to read this book, I have to reread The Shadow of What Was Lost. Now, these are quite chunky epic fantasies, so it's taken a while for them to come up to the top of my priority list, but August is the first month that I'm benefiting from the Wheel of Time read-along being over, which means that in theory I have space for new epic fantasy in my roster. And this one is of course the first series that I'm going to be tackling. So from what I remember of this one, it is set in a world where there were these godlike creatures called augurs, and I think that they were killed, they were overthrown, and humans have taken over. And while all new augurs that are discovered are killed on sight, there is a lesser version of an augur called a gifted that hold some semblance of power of the augurs. They all go to a school, or schools, I'm not sure how many they are, where they hone their craft, hone their skills so that they can be of service to like the government, the empire, whatever the political situation is in this world. Our main character Davian is not like the rest of the gifted. His powers are not quite the same. He's failing all of his classes because he can't control them, and when he thinks that all hope is lost and he's just destined to be a failure, he is offered this opportunity to go on a quest. Now I can't actually remember the details of the quest at this point. I read this probably only like 3 years ago or something, but the finer details have escaped me, which is why I would like to refresh myself on this one before I jump into this one. Now, I'm not actually probably going to be reading them both in the same month, but they are both on my immediate TBR. And then my Patreon pick for August, I'm pretty sure that this one was Haley's pick, and it is another adult fantasy series that I'm going to be diving into, which is Prince of Thorns by Mark Lawrence. So I have read from Mark Lawrence before. I've read most of the Book of the Ancestor series, and by that I mean I still not have read the last book, and I do have his newer series on my TBR in the Locked Library editions that I'm really excited to get to. I've heard really good things about it, but to be honest, while I've owned Prince of Thorns for a very long time, I have been avoiding it a little bit because I know it's grimdark, which is fine. I've read and enjoyed grimdark in the past, but I feel like this goes to a little bit of an extreme, and I have actually read the first chapter of it and it is quite dark. We're following, I'm pretty sure, the life story of this boy who's like this big bad outlaw figure. Pretty sure he used to be the royalty of somewhere, but I'm guessing his like kingdom has fallen and now he's leading this band of outlaws, and this book opens up with him like raping and pillaging this village with his outlaws as like a 12-year-old boy. So there's an element of disbelief there on top of it as well, because how can you lead a band of outlaws at like 12 years old. I think that this is Mark Lawrence's first book as well, so if it's not the best, then I guess that makes sense. But I do also know there is a spin-off series, I think following the same characters but a little bit later in time. So I guess we should now add my August Patreon pick. I have added a few new recommendations into the pot, but if you guys are unfamiliar with the Inner Circle Patreon pick, the top tier of my Patreon can all recommend a book that gets added to this mug, and every month I pick a book out, add it to my TBR, and I read it in the like handful of months that follow it being pulled. So I want to stay away from adult fantasy or like intense adult fantasy. I wouldn't mind something like a little bit more chill at this point, but I think with like these, my quota for adult fantasy is very much fulfilled at the minute. Well, we just lost two that dove out of the mug, but I'm gonna pick this one. Oh, this is two, but I guess I'm touching the green one, so we'll go for the green one. And this one, I cannot read that at all. It's Claire's pick though, right? Ooh, isn't this like a manga or something? Claire normally goes easy on me and gives me quite small, like easy to read picks. This is actually a really cute one to come out. Thank you, Claire. And I'm actually going to London, like after I film this video, I am heading to London today. So I can actually go to Forbidden Planet and see if I can pick this up. So yeah, this is a Japanese manga series. It is a boy love series. And the synopsis says, boys love cooked to perfection. Eating around other people is a struggle for salaryman Yutaka, despite his talent for cooking. All that changes when he meets Minoru and Tane, two brothers many years apart in age, who ask him to teach them how to make his delicious food. It's not long before Yutaka finds himself falling hard for the meals they share together and falling in love. And as you can see on the cover, it's like two guys but also a kid. So I feel like the dynamic of this is going to be really wholesome. And you know what, actually, I could do with that right now. It's weird because like when I read fantasy or in general, I tend to like grittier stories. But when I read manga, I specifically like contemporary manga and graphic novels that are really wholesome. So I feel like this is going to fit the bill. Thank you very much, Claire. So I just have one more obligatory read on my TBR, which is my Patreon book club book for July and August. But actually, I realized that this book is only released in the UK in August. It is a self-published series that has been picked up and traditionally published, and I remember when we were setting the schedule that we were going to roughly like kind of fall in line with the UK publishing schedule, and it vaguely worked. But the book in question is Lady of Starfire by Melissa K. Roerich. This is also the last book for our current round of my Patreon book club, which is a fantasy romance read-along book club, and this one is released at some point in August. I don't know the exact date, but I have been pretty much reading the ebooks of this series anyway, so I will get it whenever it's released. To be honest, I have not quite finished book 4 in this series yet, so this is going to be something that I try and pick up definitely towards the end of the month. But the Lady of Darkness series by Melissa K. Roerich is essentially a mashup of everything that Sarah J. Maas has ever written, which is my main criticism of it, if I'm being honest. But we are following this girl who is an assassin, and she is estranged from the assassin lord because she is grieving. So she's taken some time away to kind of heal, and also she has some issues with the assassin lord. But the assassin lord is getting impatient and would like to bring her back into the fold, and so he offers her a job that she cannot refuse, because upon its completion he will give her access to the Fae Fire Prince that is responsible for the death of her mother. So there are things that I like about this. I find it kind of compulsively readable, but there's also nothing overly unique about it, because I do feel like it is stuff that has been borrowed from other series and other authors, especially Sarah J. Maas. But the general consensus on this series is it gets better the further you get into it, so I'm hoping I feel the same when I finish like book 4 and get into book 5. And then the final two books on this TBR are ones that I don't need to read, but I'm probably going to, or I'm going to try to, throughout August. The first one is for an event I'm attending. I'm going to an Elise Cover event halfway through the month, and so I'm going to be adding Arcana Academy to this TBR. I have read a book from Elise Cover before. I read A Deal with the Elf King, which I enjoyed. I liked it, but I didn't love it. But I'm definitely open to giving Elise Cover another try, reading more from Elise Cover, and this is a book that I actually own. It is a book for July book box. It's just I haven't filmed my unboxing yet, so I don't have the physical copy to show you. This book actually blends a couple of elements that I really love in fantasy, which is why it intrigues me so much, because it centers around tarot cards, interestingly, but it's also set in a magic school. In this one, we are following a girl who has been sentenced to, I think, like a lifetime in prison for plagiarizing tarot cards. So it's something that only very powerful, highly trained people are supposed to do, to, and she has been doing it without these like qualifications. So the headmaster of Arcana Academy pulls her out of prison because he has a job that he thinks that she is perfect for, which is going to be stealing a tarot card to help them to recreate a very powerful tarot card that has been lost to all time. And as part of this, she is enrolled into Arcana Academy as a first year student, but I think also as this headmaster's bride to be. So you have a lot of interesting dynamics in here. Elise Cover has published a ton of books since the deal with the Elf King, so I imagine that she has, I mean, she published a ton of books before that as well, but I imagine that she's just continuing to grow and grow as an author. So as this contains a couple of my favorite elements in fantasy, I hope that I love it. And then the final book I'm going to be reading in August is one that I think I'm definitely going to be picking up, and that one is the Dungeon Anarchist Cookbook by Matt Dinneman. This one is book 3 in the Dungeon Crawler Carl series, which is a lit RPG following a man called Carl, of course, who enters into this dungeon when aliens take over his planet. This is something that aliens have been preparing for a very long time, and Carl is just minding his own business when his cat jumps out the window. So he goes out like in his underwear to retrieve the cat and bring her back inside. When all of the buildings on Earth collapse, this like mysterious voice comes from the ether and says you can either enter into the dungeon and be part of this intergalactic game show, or you can try and survive on the surface of your planet with no shelter in a winter storm. So he of course takes the dungeon option, where his cat also becomes a player in this dungeon, and they begin their quest to survive this whole thing. It blends things like Ready Player One with also like elements of the Hunger Games, like the game show aspect of it, and also they do things like interviews, and there's like PR that's part of it that reminds me a lot of the Hunger Games, where you have this juxtaposition of like the brutality of the game with the glitz and glamour of the game's presentation. I have like an hour left of the audiobook of book 2. I am listening to all of these in audio as well, which is why I'm pretty sure I'm going to be reading this in August, because there's nothing else on this TBR that I feel is like a great audiobook contender, whereas I would 100% recommend the audio of Dungeon Crawler Carl for its production. So I'll probably have book 2 done before August even starts, but honestly I haven't enjoyed that one as much as I enjoyed book 1, which I'll talk about in my wrap up, but I am still going to be going into book 3, and if I don't enjoy book 3 as much and I feel similarly as book 2, we'll see if I continue past that. Stay tuned for my September TBR to find out. But those are all of the books that I'm going to be reading in August. I actually can't believe that in terms of physical reads, this is literally all I have to show you guys. I do of course own Arcana Academy, and I will of course be picking up a copy of Our Dining Table by Mita Ori hopefully today, which was of course Claire's Patreon pick. But yeah, we just have the adult fantasy representing right now. I'm hoping that now I don't have Wheel of Time on my plate, I can get through things a little bit quicker, because that was definitely dominating like a solid 2 weeks of my time approaching the live show for every book, and I'm very excited to be dedicating that time elsewhere. I do of course have, like I said, Shelve It or Scrap It in the background as well, which I'm hoping to kind of intersperse the Shelve It or Scrap It books with my regular TBR books and kind of chip away at both of those lists of priority reads at the same time. So Shelve It or Scrap It is definitely coming. I am delayed, but I'm also trying not to be too pressed about it, because being stressed about anything, for me at least, is very counterproductive, because it slows down my, for example, reading speed if I'm stressed about reading. So that is not the headspace that we want to be in, and we never want to be stressed about reading anyway, which I mean generally I'm not. It's just like the last month or so that that's been an issue for me, and we want to nip that in the bud right now. But thank you very much for watching, guys. Down in the comments, let me know what book you are the most excited to pick up in August, and if you guys would like to let me know that you were here but you don't feel like you have anything to say, leave me some kind of like dining or food emoji for our dining table. But aside from that, please don't forget to like this video if you liked it, and subscribe if you wanna. If you head to my description box, you will find a link to my Goodreads, my Instagram, and my Patreon if you would like to join me on any of those. But that's it from me today, guys. Bye!
Oh, you bite your friend like chocolate. You say you're a go and nobody knows, with guns hidden under our petticoats. We're never gonna quit it, no, we're never gonna quit it, no.